Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is on around 6:30. Let's call to order the meeting of the Merrimack Planning Board for Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. Let's begin, as we always do, with a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see. Thank you very much. A couple of housekeeping items. Nelson, let's appoint you to a voting position today. I think all the rest of us are full members, right? So no other alternates to appoint. We are 6, so that makes a quorum. Let me remind everyone that speaks tonight, either board members or the public, to make sure the microphone is turned on and you speak clearly into it, so the folks at home can hear you and so our minutes can be prepared very well. Our next meeting after tonight is currently scheduled for December 3rd, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. in the Matthew Thornton room, which is this room. That completes our usual opening call to order. And so the next item on our agenda, item 2, is our consent agenda. There are regional impact determinations on the consent agenda. What is the will of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I didn't
Motion to
see
approve.
it.
Oh.
Is there,
Nelson didn't
there
see
was no paper that came with it.
Okay.
This is what,
Here's mine.
oh, okay. Oops, I did see this. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there a second for Halim's motion?
I will second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda? Nelson?
Yeah, this property that we're looking at tonight, in fact, is on the border with another jurisdiction. And so therefore, I don't think it's exempt from a regional notification.
Okay. So let's do two things. First, procedurally, that withdraws us from the consent agenda to discuss the item, but that's okay because there's only one item on the consent agenda, so let's discuss this.
Okay.
I don't disagree with you that it is on the boundary of Bedford, obviously, and would, but because of what it is, Bedford Planning Board has to vote on it too, so they're already aware of it and tuned into it. So nothing else is accomplished or achieved, advanced by the regional determination. Bedford already knows. They're hearing it December 5th.
I'm not sure of the date, but I know it's coming up soon.
I thought we had a December date somewhere in the memo. But anyway, with that in mind, though, I doesn't open up to anybody to discuss whether there ought to be a regional impact determination for this. It certainly seems like a very quiet little subdivision that, but for the fact that it's in Bedford, they wouldn't care about it either. And so, for my part, I would not necessarily make a regional impact determination. But you're right, it is on the property line. Any other discussion on this? With that in mind,
Just real quick, there is still a motion and second on the floor for the approval of the consent agenda, but if Nelson pulled it off, we'll have to have those rescinded and
yes, I was just treating that motion as a motion to approve the item on the consent agenda since we pulled it off. But if you want to rephrase it, is that consistent? Or let's withdraw the motion on the consent agenda and accept a motion if anybody wishes to make one regarding the regional impact recommendation.
So
So
motioned. So
Is-
moved.
Is there a second for that?
I will second.
Andy, okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 6-0-0 to approve the regional impact recommendation. There are no other items on the consent agenda. The next item on our regular agenda is item 3, Lisa M. and John J. Sweeney as the applicant and owners, and it's review for acceptance and consideration of a 2-lot subdivision. The parcel's located at 54 Parkhurst Road in the R1 residential by map and Aquifer Conservation Districts, Tax Map 7A, Lot 4, Case Planning Board 2024-21. Robert, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
No, I would just defer to the applicant for their presentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. Come forward and introduce yourself. Well, get settled in first, and then introduce yourself and tell us about the proposal.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and those present in the audience, my name is John LeFave.
Touch your microphone, the button on the microphone.
There we go.
Okay.
That better?
Yeah.
My name is John LaFave with Fieldstone Land Consultants. I'm here tonight on behalf of Lisa and John Sweeney. We're presenting an application for a two-lot subdivision. This is a weird piece of property. It's actually bisected by the town of Bedford and the town of Merrimack. The existing house is located in the town of Merrimack, and there's a large portion of land that's in the Bedford, the town of Bedford. The lot consists of approximately 7 acres. We have about 370 feet of frontage. When we presented this plan, we had looked at a couple different options on how to configure these parcels. One thought was that we'd have a non-building lot created in Merrimack that could possibly use for frontage. We were waiting to hear back from staff comments, and I just received staff comments a few days ago. I re-reviewed the plans based upon their comments, and the zoning ordinance does read that if you have a parcel of land that is in the severe zone, severe soil zone, you can actually, as long as you have 45,000 square feet of moderate soils, you can apply to the R2. I had changed my plans. I was going to present this material tonight. In speaking with Robert prior to the meeting, he brought to my attention that he believes that the land in Bedford does not qualify to satisfy the requirements of Merrimack, and that a variance would be required for the frontage. I was trying to follow suit to a previous plan. Abutters to the east of us had done a subdivision in 1996. It was prepared by George Keller, and the town line bisected all those properties as well, and they used the land in Merrimack to satisfy the frontage requirements for Bedford. I was thinking to follow suit, and I didn't understand that there was a hurdle where land in Bedford could not be used to satisfy the area requirements for Merrimack.
Okay. So where does that leave you with your proposal?
It leaves me where if I had more time to plan for it, a better answer. But we had just received the information from the planning staff 2 days ago, and I thought I had answered the question, and it was just brought to my presentation just moments ago as to the way that the zoning is interpreted by the town planner.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand now. If you were able to consider the Bedford part of this parcel together with the Merrimack parcel, you would qualify for R2 because of severe soils, and that would allow you to have less road frontage?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because there's.
What have you got for road frontage?
Right now, there is a total of, sorry, I just have to zoom in here. It's in my notes, 377.1 feet of frontage.
Okay, and
Bedf-
how much it will be in the lot 41-2A?
41-2A, the way that we have it proposed on the subject plan that we submitted. Sorry, I have two different plans, so I just have to.
That microphone that's on that stand back there, grab that to take with you while you walk.
I'm with you. Is that better?
Yeah, let me get Grace to let me know that it's turned on. Speak into it so she can see if it's.
Hello?
Seems like it's working. She's not giving me any signals, so.
So the way we have it proposed
It is.
on this plan right now is that lot 41-2B would have 250 feet of frontage. Then it was brought to my attention that we would need to meet the requirements from Bedford in order to have the 150 here. So that's where we adjusted the, they have a second sheet here. Hang on a second, please.
Sure, you're done.
So I have a second sheet here, and what we had done was held the 150 feet of frontage for Bedford leaving the resulting Merrimack lot with 227.1 feet of frontage. Thinking we were qualifying for R2 soils right here.
Okay, so that lot has sufficient frontage. It's 2A that has too little.
Well, it's one scenario or the other.
Fair.
Yep.
Um,
Mr. Chair, if
yes,
if
sir.
I could just back it up, the reason this is happening is because this parcel happens to be in the R1 by map zone in Merrimack, which is automatic 250 feet of frontage by default. So he
Okay.
doesn't get the benefit of being able to adjust the soils to calculate down to find a different zone to get lesser frontage.
Okay, so it's not so much the deal with there's land at Bedford, it's because it's R1 by map.
Correct.
Okay. So, with that in mind, it's certainly okay for the planning board to conditionally or consider conditionally reviewing this parcel, but with the condition that you'd need a variance for that frontage.
Understood.
And the ZBA can, receive your proposal and evaluate it on their criteria. So, go ahead with your presentation. I've got a few questions when we get to the right time.
So the plan is to create a piece of backland, access through the town of Merrimack. We'd have a large lot. The resulting lot would be around 5 acres. The lot in Merrimack would be around 2 acres in size.
Are we talking about 22B or
Lot
2A?
Lot 2A would be about 5 acres in size.
Okay,
Lot 2B with the existing home would be 1.97 acres. The way we
Okay.
have the lot line reconfigured. Well, there's two different scenarios. They both end up with the lot being about the same size. It's just the frontage scenario. And I guess I would try to gauge with the board if they see a better scenario that I'm proposing here, whether it be the 150 feet of land on Bedford with the deficiency in Merrimack on that site.
so you keep mentioning Bedford and Merrimack, but both of these lots straddle the line. I don't know which one you're
Correct.
talking about when you say the Bedford or the Merrimack.
So if I show you a plan that was done by George Keller, 1 second, I think it'll make a little more sense.
Okay.
So here's a plan that was done in 1996. What we have here is our lot is right here. It's bisected by one lot. We actually touch this parcel right here. That's our lot line.
Okay.
So these lots that were created, they used the Bedford regulations and they used land in the Merrimack to satisfy those regulations. So
Okay.
they have 150 feet of frontage here, where the town of Merrimack requires 200 feet of frontage.
Okay. So Bedford can use its regulations to decide whether there's enough frontage for the lot when they're approving the left side of the page.
Here.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the right side, I'm not even sure that our zoning matches their zoning on the other side of the line.
No, it doesn't, and that's where this is a sticky mess. It's just because the town line comes through here.
Sure. I think we're kind of bound to apply our own zoning ordinance or else have the zoning board consider a variance, right? Understandably, I don't want to get you hung up on some procedural gobbledygook, but I don't know that I've got any other avenue for that. That's what the ZBA is for. And I think it fits the kind of hardship and all of that because it straddles the line and, it
Yeah, these
probably
were-
qualifies for
These
it.
were all prepared right here, and here's our lot. It's just this little outlot right here.
Yeah. In terms of the 1996 approval of the abutting property, far before my time, Nelson was here for that, I'm sure, but that doesn't mean that you
recall
remember it.
I don't recall it right offhand.
Well, I think it's because, where do you see this scenario? I've only seen it
Yeah,
probably
it's-
twice in my life.
It definitely is
So
certainly
now
pretty
you've
rare.
got two different zoning ordinances from two different towns playing with each other here, and the building is going to be in Bedford.
Yeah.
But Merrimack needs to satisfy the frontage. And it's vice versa. I figured with the same thing, we have an existing lot, we could use land in Bedford to satisfy the Merrimack.
So I'm not opposed to the idea of their land satisfying a thing, but it's still our zoning regulation in Merrimack, and in R1, you need 250 feet of frontage.
Understood, and when I discussed it with Robert, if you go down and read the note says, if you have land that's in the severe slopes, not severe slopes, the severe zoning, that if you have 45,000 square feet, you can utilize that and then apply R2 zoning. But then there's another reading, which is separate from that, further up on the same chapter, which says severe soils regardless of, severe locations regardless of soils shall apply. By map, I think it's something new that was enacted in 2000.
Well, it's not new anymore. 24 years ago.
Well, right. but
I'm
I'm looking at this for an example. This
no,
is
I
a,
gotcha. Yeah, something newer than that neighbor one. All right. I open for any other board members to make some suggestions. I don't know how to get you the frontage that you need to meet our regulation, and the only way to proceed without meeting the regulation is with the permission of the zoning board.
Right,
Seems like much more of a zoning board issue.
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like the subdivision to the east of us kind of set precedents for a lot of the lots in the area, and that a variance would be, it'd be a good case for a hardship.
I think so. Yeah, I think our ZBA is pretty fair in their evaluation of
Yep.
things, and I don't want to put words in their mouth or try to lean into their regulations, but I think they'd be pretty kind in their review. It certainly seems that way to me, that it fits the reasons for it. I've got other questions about the plan. Can
Sure.
you go there, or do you want to?
No, I mean, my presentation's brief for reasons that I need some direction. And so if you have some questions in regards to what I've presented.
Sure. So the first is the proposed lot line between 2A and 2B.
Mhm.
I can see that plainly. I can't follow any other lot line on 41 2A using the legend and the line weight that I'm supposed to be looking for to
I
figure
did
out.
bring highlighters, so we can easily fix that.
Well, highlighters are helpful for the presentation here,
Yes.
but the recorded plan should use whatever line weight the legend says for a boundary line.
We do have that line. It's, the center line of Babusick Brook is actually the boundary line for 41-2A.
Fair, but it's not using the line weight from the legend that says it's the property line.
That's my bad. We usually add that line to the legend, so I apologize for that. The way the property is, hang on one second if you don't mind.
And I think the stone wall is your easterly boundary in the back, but again, not the line weight from the legend to tell me that that's the boundary line.
Yeah, we generally don't draw a boundary line through the stone wall, only because then it wipes out the stone wall. I didn't set the drafting standards at my office. This is the way it's been done. However, if you don't mind, I'll bring something up for you, and I do have,
Yeah, we're always interested to know where the stone walls are, but if a stone wall's on a property line, the property line's the line I need to see.
yeah, that's our property.
Okay.
I can highlight a few of these to make it easier for you guys.
Sure, we can pass it around as well, so.
We'll get another one going. Yeah, I'll wait a second to speak, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Well, yeah, actually, we should wait till we're at a microphone.
See if you want to start this one. See, here you go.
I passed mine that way, so I think everybody this way saw it, and Mark will get this one.
Okay.
So, thank you for understanding the line weight. I would say as a condition of approval, submit a plan with, property line all with the line weight that your legend says is the boundary of a parcel.
Yeah, I would just go through the physical evidence of the boundary line. They'd wipe each other out.
Yeah, that makes sense. So on this property, other than Babusick Brook, is there any wetlands on the property?
The wetlands are
Yes.
all adjacent to a Babusick Brook. That's it.
Okay. So I see the approximate center line of the proposed drive, and I only want to look at the Merrimack piece of it. I'll let Bedford review whatever it happens in Bedford for whether it can
So
be
our
built in
driveway,
setbacks and all that.
oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Our driveway in Merrimack doesn't touch any of the setbacks. It's actually, doesn't impact any of the buffers from Merrimack's regulations.
Okay.
I imagine this is going to need a shoreland permit when they build the home, and it's gonna need to be adherence to that. So I imagine that that'll be handled in the Bedford Avenue when we reach that destination.
Okay. Do you know, so you said shoreland is the one that you'll need?
Yeah, so if you're within 250 feet of a named water body on the New Hampshire's list of consolidated water bodies, you fall into the category of a shoreland permit, which they look at how much impervious surface you're creating and look at your drainage to make sure it doesn't pollute the brook. So, you know, anyone that goes to build a home on this will have to go through that avenue, and I think the state has a pretty high regard to what happens. I don't see there being a need to go there at this point until we've ironed out the wrinkles.
Fair enough. I think, so there's a couple of dotted lines through the map that are a heavier dotted line.
Yes, those are, if you look to the bottom left corner of your map, you'll see the NRCS soils legend.
Soil boundary, got it. That's what I thought.
And that's
it
what you
was.
see. We have an area where the house is falls under the HSB, which is Hinkley Loamy Sand, which is a excessively well-drained soil. And then we have CMB on the other side of the town line, which consists of, you know, pretty much the entire Bedford lot, which is all moderate soil.
Okay. So, from my standpoint, pretty simple application. I don't have any problem with considering the Merrimack piece of the subdivision and let Bedford decide on their side. The driveway is fine with me. You need that variance for the frontage and a plan that shows me the boundary line all the way around it. And I don't particularly have any other things that are jumping out causing me concern. Other board members? Nelson?
Yeah, I had a few problems, and
This is a busy map, but
it's a very busy map. There's too much on one page to figure it all out. But I did note this location, approximate location of the driveway, of the new driveway, goes extremely close, if not on, into the setback from the brook that's required. And Okay.
I can speak to that. It's a general line right now. It hasn't been, it's not the product of a driveway design.
yeah,
I know that Bedford's probably going to want to see one.
well, I sure would want to see more before I said yes to this plan. That's one thing. Another thing I noticed, since you're going to the ZBA, this existing lot 2B has a garage or building shown in the setback to the property to the east. If you go to the east from this 2B lot, you go, you find the setback. There's a garage built in it, already there.
Yes, and I don't know when that was constructed. I suspect it's pre-existing non-conforming, but I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either, and that's a question. The other thing is the wetland setbacks in general come into this driveway area. That's a concern. So I think those are my main things right now. The Mr. Chairman,
yeah. The comment about the driveway, I thought the same thing. It's very close to the brook, but at the same time, that's Bedford's call.
Mhm.
And
The way I saw
also,
it.
Mr. Chair, if I might add,
Sure.
in the early talks with the Bedford planning staff, they had talked about the location of the driveway. I know it's coming into play when we go to the town of Bedford. I don't know how they want to handle it with an easement or a lot line changed. That's why it's kind of a general location right now, and I really need to get to Bedford to get that answer.
So if they changed the lot line location, the proposed lot line location, or they required some easement and the driveway crosses over 2B to get to 2A or something, let's talk through whether that changes what we're deciding. If Bedford said, hey, you gotta move the lot line, or you gotta move the driveway or something, how does that affect what's before us, if at all? Maybe it doesn't, I don't know. Talk me through it.
So, we would still have to adhere, any change to the lines would still have to adhere to the town of Bedford, I'm sorry, the town of Merrimack's regulations. I don't suspect the lines are changing. The only thing I can see is maybe an easement added. We meet the requirements for severe soils right now, so that's the worst-case scenario.
Well, and, yeah, I get the severe soils thing. So I think if the line between 41-2B and 41-2A moved, or there was an easement over it to put the driveway on 2B to get to 2A, and all of that occurred in Bedford, I could say, let Bedford sort that out. As long as the Merrimack side of the thing stay what's before us. I could find some logic to that. I'm curious about what that solution will be and where that driveway will be, but I feel like curiosity doesn't necessarily give me any authority over that property in somebody else's town, right? I echo Nelson's. I didn't notice the garage in the setback. I think when you go to the ZBA, you might want to just ask them for the variance and get that cleaned up while you're there.
Okay.
And I don't, because it already exists, maybe it's pre-existing non-conforming. It would have to be a fairly old, pre-1970.
I can check with the building department as far as its construction and what the regulations were in place when it was constructed.
And whatever it is, it certainly hasn't tipped over the world, so I don't think anybody is gonna,
Yeah.
be awestruck with any kind of upset by it. I think it's just get it stamped and move on with it.
I appreciate that.
That way you just have a clean record. Does any other board members have questions or comments on the plan?
Is the proposed driveway, I see it's there's a flood line, certainly in
Yeah.
Bedford, but it crosses over, even in the Merrimack side, seems like the flood line is well to the east of where the driveway comes in. Any concerns on that?
I don't believe so. I'm trying to look right now myself.
Unless I'm looking at the wrong line, but if you look toward the center of the plan, close to the,
Yeah, I gotta look at the larger version.
Yeah, I do too. This
I might be looking at the
plan is
wrong.
very difficult to work with.
Well, I brought reduced sizes just as a courtesy to hand them out. I had submitted full size, so I apologize that you have to look at that.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble myself.
So see if you can figure out on your larger plan, the flood line for a while kind of goes along the same as the limit of wetlands delineated on July 11th, 2024. Those, figuring out which line, which label goes with.
Yeah,
But if that flood line goes around elevation 220 to 222 and follows it through there, then all of the Merrimack parcel is in the flood zone, except for the very road frontage bit of it.
yeah, that's what,
And I might
That
just
was
be
my
looking at the
concern.
wrong line, but I don't think so.
Yeah, it looks like the flood line is a dashed line that's a little lighter than.
You know, I'm not sure it is. If you look over to the left side of the plan, there's the approximate flood line over by where it's labeled 41-2A.
Yeah,
I think it's the darker dashed line.
So if you can see this, here's the flood line for the property right here.
I don't
yeah,
know.
that's the one that I was looking at. So.
Yeah, okay.
That line weight, put it in the legend, but also, what does that mean in terms of our review of this? even though we're doing a subdivision for a lot that won't have any construction in Merrimack, Robert, does it matter that the lot doesn't have any area outside of a flood? Which flood zone is that? Is that 100-year?
That's the 100-year, adjacent to Babusick Brook as the flood source. Zone AE. I believe it's actually called out as one of the notes. And one of the other troubles with this is we have to show so many lines on these plans, and when you copy stuff, it doesn't reproduce always the greatest. It looks so good on the original copy.
What's the elevation change with the driveways and everything? It seems like, again, it's hard to tell because of the lines, but it looks like it's not a small change.
In between, the elevation change between what sources?
Between the Parkhurst Road and basically the end of where all these elevation limits are.
So 218 is the elevation where the building site is, and,
I'm just looking at the Merrimack side.
oh, it's flat. I mean, there's, where when you come in, there's, I think, maybe a 6 foot change, and then it's, fairly flat, and then it changes a few feet.
You're saying from Parkhurst, it drops off 6 feet, and then it's fairly flat.
Yeah, that's correct. There's about,
Yeah.
I'm looking, there's another contour right here, so excuse me, I'm just going back and forth between these plans, and I'm still at a small one. I only saw 2 lines, looks like the 6. There's about a 6 foot drop. And then it, picks up grade.
So there'd have to be some sort of a culvert there or bridge or something?
I don't know that there's a drainage problem, but if we're doing any driveway design work, I imagine that we're gonna have to look at a culvert if it's required. And I think that would be part of the driveway permit process anyway.
Other comments or questions from members of the board?
You know, I'd like to see more. Putting all of this on one page was,
Yeah, some of the ones that you have where you've got a couple of different pages for things are certainly helpful. And I would think maybe there's a way to show us some of the things that
Do
we
you
need
have
without.
full-size copies? I know we submitted quite a few.
There were some, they weren't sent in our package, but the ones that we got are the smaller ones.
I think if you're looking at the full-size, it looks pretty good. It's not bad. It's just, I agree with you, it stinks to have to stare at
or
them 11 by 17.
separate the issues. You can do
Yeah.
2 pages.
Yeah, do soil types and
Yeah.
topos on another plan. On another sheet, I'm sorry, not another
Yeah.
plan.
Once again, that's our chiefest survey, the way he likes to see things, and that's the way I presented the plans in accordance. So if that's a request of yours, it's something we can certainly do.
It'd certainly help me look at it. I mean, we may be able to fight our way through this and sort of see what we need to see.
Would you like
I
the
don't wanna make you.
the full-size copy I have over here? Would that be helpful?
If others want to see it, I'm, now that you've pointed out the various features, I think that I can see what I need to see, but, maybe as a condition of approval, getting some of the, other extra stuff off of the ultimately recorded plan.
Well, when we record the plan, we usually take off all the soils, all the contours, all that information, because the only thing that the registry is interested in is seeing the boundary for the property. So the setbacks are on there, any overlay districts are on there, the boundaries on there, but then we usually remove, like I said, the topo,
Yeah.
any lines that aren't necessary from a boundary standpoint.
So, board members, the task before us first is to decide whether this application is complete. And to some extent, these questions about the plan might weigh in on your decision on that. And then if it is complete, then we would do a public hearing and decide what to do with the application itself. So discussion on the concept of complete. Nelson, you mentioned that you wanted to see certain things, and I know
Yeah, I'm not satisfied that this is complete, especially in light of what he said earlier this evening about possible changes to these boundaries. It makes it completely different, and I'm not ready to accept this as a complete plan, the way it's presented.
I wouldn't be changing any of the Merrimack boundaries, it would just be the Bedford boundaries.
So ultimately, those
yeah.
things have to appear on the same plan because you're gonna
Yeah.
get signatures from both of us.
Correct. And we actually have approval blocks from both boards on the plan,
Yeah.
so
see. When do you get a chance to go before the Bedford ZB, planning board?
I had spoke to the town of Bedford today, and there was some conversations that were happening without my knowledge. And I believe that they let them know that a variance was required, so they didn't put us on the agenda. After speaking with her today, she said, we'll have to delay it 2 weeks, so we're on for December 16th for the
You
town
need
of
a
Bedford.
Bedford variance too, or does
No.
want this Merrimack one?
Just the Merrimack.
Okay. So, does Bedford not conditionally approve without the variance, or do you have to get the variance before December 16th?
I imagine they would probably be in the same boat. They wouldn't be able to, they'll still hear the application, but it'd be hinging on the variance.
Okay, so they'd vote to approve it conditional on getting a variance, that's what we would do, and I think that's what you're supposed to do. And the same as it'd be conditioned on you getting your DES permits and that sort of thing.
Right.
But having a clean plan where I could find everything that I'm looking for, because I'm not sure that I'm not overlooking something important here, because I try and untangle the,
To be fair, Mr.
Details.
Chairman, it makes me sad sometimes when we're asked to produce 8 or 10 copies of a plan and we submit them and they never get brought to the board. I mean, a full-size copy would make your life a lot better.
Chair, those copies, the large copies, go to staff members for department review comments, so that's where they all went.
okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, it's typical for us to have this size. It's rare for us to get full size.
It's not the overall size, it's the amount of stuff that's on the same plan that's
That's all,
bothering me.
yeah, I understand. It's all part of the regulations, and I'm just trying to follow suit. This is the way my company has asked me to do it. This is the way I've compiled the plan. A full-size copy does look good.
No, I get it.
But looking at it, this 11 by 17, I'm in agreement with you. It's very hard to find anything. I mean,
Yeah.
and at my age, without my glasses, I can't see anything anyway, so.
No, I mean, I appreciate that this is the way your company does it, and this is not, a personal attack. It's just sort of trying to read the plan.
I understand. I
Um,
understand.
And no matter how big it is, just finding that property line and having that highlighted, which, you don't get to record the one with the orange highlights on it. You gotta record one with black lines on it. Okay, any other discussions about the application being complete or not complete? If it's the will of the board to say that it's not complete, I think you gotta tell the applicant what to do to make it complete. And then, get them on a schedule where we could see it and do that and take a look at it. Discuss that idea, if anybody has any feedback or input on
I'd
it.
like to see without the topography.
I see without the topography, the soil types can be on a separate sheet or something, or maybe this sheet can get me the soil types, because I can find those. But the ultimate signed plan without the soil types, without the topography, with the boundary line, with a consistent line all the way around, including where it
Buffers.
goes down the river, or the brook, not a river. I was actually having trouble finding the lengths of the frontage in different areas, and I know that there's different legs there's bends in the road, but, so we're making sure all those labels are clear so I could figure out how much frontage there is.
Yeah, and we actually have, not on the plan that was initially given to you, after looking at it today when I was gonna come back with a revised plan, I had put the frontage on the symbol for the lot. As far as acreage goes, it says acreage, and it says how much frontage the lot has, so we did address it. It's just, when you look
Where
at
does it
all
say
the
that?
different things that are being asked for you to put on a
Could you
plan.
say that again? I didn't get you.
So, the plan, the reduced copies that I just handed out and passed around, I don't know if you still have a copy of those.
Yeah.
Okay, I revised those for tonight's meeting.
Oh, that's different.
And if you look underneath the lot block for 41-2A, you'll see it shows the amount of frontage that we're proposing for that lot. And if you look under the lot block for proposed lot 7A-4A, it shows the frontage that we're listing for that lot. The initial
see it.
plan that was submitted didn't have that.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
So,
we did see
Yeah.
it.
so I will address that. That's not an issue. And like I said, when we go to record plans, what we usually give the town is a Mylar and a copy of the plan with just the boundary on it. The registry has passed the plat law. The plat law states they don't want to see lines through text. They don't want to see all this stuff on this. They're discouraged to see anything besides what's relevant to boundary information being recorded. So we usually address, the Mylar without having the contours or that information on it. We also supply full-size copies of the initial plan too, with any revisions on it to the board.
Okay, so if we decide that the application is not complete and we want a revision, I think in addition to taking the topograph, information off, putting the soil types either on a different plan or treating this as your soil type plan, there are features on here that aren't necessarily interesting to us, like ledge, split rail fence, let's see, what else is jumping out at me as things that we don't necessarily have an interest in, that are making the thing more complicated to read and locate.
All that will be removed. We don't have any plans that are hard to read or any conflicts when it goes to the registry. They have some strict laws when we bring plans down.
I like
After
that
getting
plan.
everybody's signatures on it, we don't play the game of bringing something down there that they can't read or they don't like, so.
I appreciate it, but treat me like the registry. I want a clear plan too.
Well, work with me too. Like I said, if
Fair.
you had a full-size copy, I don't think you'd be scrutinizing me so bad.
There's still an awful lot on here with the plan. So, how long would it take you to get a plan like that together if we did decide that it wasn't complete?
That's fine. That's just freezing some layers. We basically, inside the software we have, we can copy a view tab, go inside there and just, each one of these items is on what's called a layer. You can freeze it, which means it turns it off. So we turn off all those different pieces of material. It's really not a big deal.
Okay. Robert, this fits our minor subdivision plan as a two-lot?
Yes, absolutely.
Being a minor subdivision, what does that do to the requirements that we usually impose on somebody to make it simpler for them? I want to make sure that,
Typically, the board does receive what essentially amounts to a recordable Mylar version of the plan, as well as the topo plan sheet. So it's typical that other applicants provide both sheets, so that way it's easy for the board to follow.
okay, so just do it in two
Yeah,
sheets?
just make whatever the registry would like, so that way you guys can see where the lot lines are and have it nice and clean, but you'll also have the sheet that you have here that has all the other information on it.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't know if it's just the way it got copied or whatever, but these two plans have all the same information on it, but the one with the highlights, the shading or the intensity of the lines or whatever make it actually a lot easier to read than the one that came in the package.
Well, what happened was, we have the initial copy, that gets scanned, then it gets reduced to 11 by 17, so you can include the stamps from the professionals on it. Every time you
I
copy
see.
something, you break down the quality. So when you're getting an 11 by 17, you're not getting a very good quality product, but it's one of a lot of towns ask for 11 by 17s as part of the application.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't realize that we've got the signatures on the one on my left hand, and that's why it's a reduced photocopy rather than a first generation print. Okay. What's the will of the board? What do you want to do? I think the action is either find the application complete or find that it's not complete and list the items that we want done. Whatever you wish.
I struggle to call it complete when it's
Yes.
hard to read the plan.
Nelson, were you making a motion? Is
I
it-
was gonna make a motion that it's not complete,
Okay.
and I agree.
Do you
To be
have
fair,
what you need
Mr.
in order
Chair,
to
I
know?
I was asked to put all this information on by your requirements, and I don't believe that anyone in this room has a full-size copy to see the legibility. I think it's unfair to kind of force that on me.
So,
And I know that I will be producing a clear copy for you.
I appreciate that we don't have the full-size copy. You've been clear about that, that you think that that would clarify some of the things. I'm not persuaded that a full-size copy would clarify my questions, especially because of the different line weights and labels and things, and I'm just trying to figure out where exactly a thing is or being able to follow a line I'm not sure clearer in that. So whether it's big or small, I'm inclined to want to have a clearer plan, just to be able to look through it and make sure I'm not missing something here. And I know that these things are required, but they're not all required to be on the same page.
Yeah.
They could be on 2 pages or 3 pages.
To be fair, they're not required to be on 2 pages either, though. I mean, I'd be happy to redo those plans and submit them to the board. It's not a problem with me tonight if you don't want to make a decision, because we do have to go to the zoning board. We could submit those and we can move on to another meeting. I'm trying to avoid another meeting just because of the costs incurred by
Yeah.
my client between the 2 towns.
I appreciate that, and I'm sensitive to it as well. And note your objections.
I have one other objection, Mr. Chairman, and that is our reviewing the plans and okaying them or whatever with conditions prior to the zoning board of adjustment having their option as to whether or not they're okay with this. I think this needs a variance, and I think that the variance should come before it comes to the planning board. That's philosophically my issue.
So is this plan different than some other plans or subdivisions in that regard? Because it's pretty typical for us to approve something conditioned on a future variance, where we don't make them get it first.
Well, I don't like doing that.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, I get it. I didn't know if there was something unique about this plan that.
No, there's
sort of-
nothing unique about this plan. That's in general.
Yeah, understood. Obviously, if we conditioned it on a variance and the ZBA says no, then our approval becomes void.
But it puts pressure on the ZBA, once we've approved the plan, to grant the variance. I think.
I guess, I
the
don't know if they really
variance
pay
comes
attention
first.
to us all that much. I don't know if they're that, but I get it. You're right. That's an idea. I mean, ultimately, that's not necessarily something to get this applicant caught up in. If we as a board want to change our approach generally, let's do that outside of an applicant.
Okay.
Not make that decision with somebody's property in the ringer. So your motion is that it's not complete and we need those items.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Mark, John, either one. Do you have an understanding of all of the things that we would want done to a plan?
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna actually bring full-size copies with me next time too. Because, I mean, what I'm doing here is I'm changing all my company's standards as far as what they have for lines and stuff like that. We have a legend that breaks it down. We do have one missing line type that you had mentioned that was hard to see. I could produce original copies for you to be able to see them. I'm happy to break them down into 2 sheets. Like mentioned, that's not a problem with a boundary on it. But, you know, I don't like seeing the plans like this either. But when you're asked for so many things to be put on there from a checklist, this is where I'm stuck with.
No, it's fair, and I understand that your company has standards. Ultimately, they've got to give way to whatever the regulatory body needs, because that's the whole purpose of the plan, is to get us to approve it.
Because, I mean, I did meet the checklist as far as what was being asked from me.
Indeed. I can't tell that because there's so many pieces on here. That's why I would want it on separate sheets, so I could tell that you meet that checklist. I just want to make sure that you know, if we have you come back, what to do so that we're successful in the second visit. Do you have any questions about the things that we want on, or are you okay? I mean, I know you don't want to come back and go in that circle again, but
No, I mean, my stone walls, if I put a property line on them, you're not gonna see them.
I'd rather see a property line than a stone wall in this case, where we're doing a subdivision.
So what I'll do is, I'll just have a boundary line that says, stone wall property line on it, and I'll put that in the legend. and I'll remove any unnecessary walls on that boundary plan for our property.
Okay.
And other than that, we'll have a separate sheet which just has the soils and the contours on it and calls out the existing features. And we'll have another sheet like we talked about that has a simplified version that you can see.
Do the same thing with the line that's going down the center of the brook. If that's your property line, use the property line weight for it.
That's the one that was missing from the legend, and I apologize for that.
Yeah. But even the dotted line, I'd rather see whatever the line is for a boundary line, the solid, not the boldest, but the second boldest solid line.
So I don't think that the flood zone line would, do you want that on the boundary plan?
The flood zone line is fine.
Okay.
But the dotted line that you're using for the center line of the brook, if that coincides with the property line, then use the property line weight down the center of the brook.
Actually, it's the same width, it's just a different line type dash because
Okay, line type.
we're
instead of line weight.
in the center line of the brook, and, that's my interpretation of the center line. Everybody that goes out and measures it gonna be a little off, but the same place, so.
Oh,
that's why we
yeah, I
have
appreciate
dash
that
line.
the center line can move. I just
Yeah.
mean, if I'm looking at the plan and I'm supposed to know that that's a boundary line, then use the boundary line style or line weight or whatever you want to call it. So that I could tell, looking at the plan, that that was a boundary line for the property. Does that make sense?
I'm good, yep.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the incomplete question? Then, once we vote on this, we can decide timing on coming back and dealing with that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 600. You said this really quick and easy to get back here. I think our next meeting is December 5th, 3rd, 2 weeks from now.
So with the application having been now voted incomplete, it would have to be renoticed for a new public hearing, so you're looking at a 3 weeks out advance notice deadline. So the earliest he could get back here would be December 17th. ZBA doesn't meet until December 18th if the board wants to have the variance problem resolved first.
Mr. Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I'm just looking at, this being, like I said, a financial hardship to re-notify all the abutters to come back. We still have to open up the public meeting, which I'm hoping you'll do tonight. That the board would consider it being conditioned upon us making these changes. And obviously, if we submit the changes and the board feels that we haven't met those changes, they don't sign the plans. But we would do everything in accordance to what you have noted to us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The board doesn't get to see the plans when they're revised, only the chair and the vice chair do. But maybe there is a way to not notify the abutters if we,
I
I know
mean,
that
if
we just.
we're consistently doing meetings, doesn't that,
What's
don't you only have to notify once if you're doing meetings?
So that's what I was just gonna do. If you continue it instead of voting that it's
You didn't
incomplete,
accept it. You didn't accept it as complete, so there is no hearing.
but you could continue the question of whether it's complete.
You already took the motion to determine it incomplete. If the
Yeah, I know,
board
we
had
would have to
motioned-
reconsider that motion if we were to go that
Right,
path.
if you were to consider continuing the application and continue in the question of continuance, then perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd have to
So-
reconsider that motion that you was
Yeah,
just
we would
made.
have to reconsider the motion that just found it incomplete. And then if that passed, then we could continue the decision on it being complete until December 3rd, not renotice people, get them here sooner. Would that work, Robert?
Yeah, at that point, you could continue it and that would serve as the public notice.
And when does he have to get you materials to get to review it? This is a fairly simple thing. Maybe you've already got,
Yeah, with that, like roughly a week ahead of time so we can make copies and
Okay.
that's fine. I don't anticipate departments having any new comments on that.
that makes sense to me, if it makes sense to the board. And if so, the way that we would do that is first take a motion to reconsider the vote we just did on incomplete. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make
So,
a motion.
Mr. Chair, could you explain that again? Make sure I understand that process you're proposing.
Sure. So the application, our normal process is to determine whether it's complete and then consider it substantively a public hearing and make a final decision. We've decided it's not complete. And when we do that, the applicant would have to start over, renotice abutters and all of that. If we backed up a step ahead of that vote and instead of deciding it's incomplete or complete, we just continue that decision till December 3rd.
Okay.
And on December 3rd, we would decide whether it's complete based on the new materials, and move it ahead, and it would save him the trouble of renoticing abutters, which is a bit of an expense and time and
Yep.
delay and all of that.
Understood, thank you.
Okay. So with that in mind, is there a motion to reconsider the incompleteness vote we just took?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that's 6-0-0. That one takes that one off the board. We're back to start. And now the vote or the potential action could be to continue consideration of completeness and the full application until December 3rd. What's the will of the board?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Second. Any questions?
No, I want to thank you for that consideration. I mean, obviously, between two towns, this is a,
I appreciate it, and I
fancy
hate the idea
application.
of putting people through extra meetings and things like that. I get it. It's a pain. And I've been on that side of the table too. I get it.
so what I'm hopeful to do is I'm actually hopeful to make these revisions and submit them to the planning staff to see if they can agree that we've met the criteria from the planning board. And so this way, when we're coming in here, we've had some eyes on it from the technical staff of the planning department. What time would I have to submit by? You said it was December 3rd, so a week prior to that is
Yeah, the 26th.
the
So
26th. You need to have revised plans by the 26th.
yeah,
I want to send you something earlier than that, so that
Actually-
you can take a look at it. Is that okay?
that would be absolutely better since that's Thanksgiving week and packets will probably go out that 27th anyway. So yeah, at the earliest that you can get it, the better.
So what's the latest I could get it, is the,
Um,
because the holiday?
if you can
just
you get
mentioned
something by the end of this week to us, or is that a little
Friday?
tight?
Yeah, we can do something. We can work it in this week to get
All right.
something to you. But if we get you something Friday, I mean, I'm hopeful that's something that you're going to look at, so that if we need to make a couple tweaks.
Yep.
Then I get a second rendition, and then we're good, and then that gets submitted.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
And
We haven't voted yet, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just on a question as to when will it go to the ZBA? I guess that's,
So that's a question that Robert raised earlier. The ZBA doesn't meet again until December 18th.
December 18th. Oh.
And so they would not have their variance done by December 5th? 3rd? However, my position on that, as much as I would like to know the ZBA's outcome, since we haven't stuck to that standard in the past, we shouldn't change course in the middle of the river on this applicant's application. If that's something that we want to do in the future, first of all, I think there's a statute that tells us that we're not allowed to do that, but I'm not sure. I know we can't hold you up on a DES permit or something like that.
Unknown caller.
Sorry. Robert, does the statute that says that we can't withhold approval based on some other permit apply to ZBA variances, or no?
It doesn't. I've been a part of multiple communities that have conditioned upon a ZBA approval, but I do appreciate the point that Nelson raised, that it does put pressure. The idea, we try our best to get applicants before the ZBA first. Hasn't happened. Sometimes even during review here, we've seen variances that have been caught, and just the board has conditioned them. It's rare, but it does occur.
If we want to change our approach to that, I guess our annual meeting is kind of when we look at our bylaws and our procedures for that sort of thing. We can always consider those same rules any other time as well, but we shouldn't do that while somebody else's project is on the cutting room floor. Okay, and the only reason for sort of even having that is, once we vote to continue this, then we're done with the agenda item. There's nothing else to talk about. We can move on. So, anything else on this application or anything else with variances? I'm comfortable with considering it with the variance pending or being conditional approved. With that in mind, continue to December 3rd. All in favor, say aye.
At 6:30 PM in the Matthew Thornton room, with no further,
no
written
further notice to
abutters.
That's right.
December 3rd
Yeah.
at 6 PM.
6:30.
I thought I heard someone just say 6.
And I suspect it'll be a much shorter discussion than tonight. As long as we've got a clear plan, I can see what I want to see. I think we can get, I'm not telling, you can present anything you want, but I think it's easier. Once I see what I need to see, I don't think that we'll have a very long discussion.
So I think if you are looking to change your regs, you may want to ask for some large-sized sheets, too.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? 6-0-0. Nelson?
He had suggested that we take testimony tonight from abutters, if you want to still do that.
We don't have if we haven't accepted it, we would still have to open up a public hearing next time too. So if we take testimony now, it's actually, there's no record open for them to put testimony in.
So after you accept it, once I submit the plans next time, we can open up the public hearing.
Yeah, and then hear from the abutters,
Okay.
if there's anybody that wishes to comment.
And we're gonna be looking to put together a ZBA application and get it right in, so I'll work with Robert on that.
Excellent, okay. Thank you very much
I want to thank
for
you all for your time tonight.
the procedure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I wish there was a way that we could get you done a little quicker, but
Yeah, this is a very strange property, so I'm working through it. And I appreciate all your time tonight.
thank you so much. Okay. Item 4 on our agenda is a Planning and Zoning Administrator's report and report, discussion, or possible action regarding other items of concern. Robert, do you have a Planning and Zoning Administrator's report?
An actual report, no. The only agenda item I would like to have discussed is the appointment of a planning board member to the Heritage Commission. I am
All right.
getting continued pressure from the town manager to get the board to make a decision on this.
Excellent. Is there a candidate who's willing to serve as the planning board representative to the Heritage Commission? Sooner or later, one of us is going to get drafted to it.
Yeah, I know.
What's that? Who's not here? Yeah. Okay. Put anything more on Lynn's lap. Robert, I know that some of the earlier communications gave us a sense of how often they meet or what the volunteer, what the obligation is. Do you remember some of the details of that, or you have a memo or anything?
I think it's only once a month. I think their meetings are held in our office, and they're generally pretty quick.
In terms of the work that they do, it's not like a planning board or a zoning board with binding authority over things. It's advisory to various other entities, correct?
Correct.
I hate to beg, but I think we gotta fill this role some way. And Lynn isn't here, but I think Lynn's an unfair choice for this. She's really trying to phase herself out of the process. I was gonna add to our discussion after we get done with the Heritage Commission that we've got a handful of vacancies now that we've gotta figure out how to recruit people for. If anybody knows any friends or relatives or anybody that might be interested in being on the planning board, we do need to, I mean,
A couple of attempts already.
excellent. I mean, I got a couple of buddies that I'll get, but I'm not sure that they're, thinking in terms of, boy, I'd like to be on a planning board, and if they're not, then you get somebody who really isn't gonna do the work the way we want it to get done. But whatever. Nelson, you had a hand up?
Yeah, I did, because I read the description that was supplied to us here for the duties of the Heritage Commission. And it's pretty wide open in here. There's various ways the Heritage Commission can be constructed and the roles that they play in the community. And this has a lot of options in it. And I don't know what our particular Heritage Commission does. I don't even know who's on it.
Somebody
don't
wanna
know
peek at
if
the town's website and see who's listed as a member of the Heritage Commission?
Oh, that could go into the website. I didn't think of that. Well, okay.
Well, no, I mean, we can figure it out here, on the fly, but, so what kind of options are there for how it's constructed? And I imagine somebody made a decision in the town charter or some
Well, here,
resolution
right-
somewhere.
There are 3 people.
Robert?
Yeah, we got 3. Chip Pollard, John Frechette, and Matthew Brown. The 4th seat that would have allowed the quorum was Barbara, who obviously resigned months ago.
So they have no quorum without us? Are there other vacancies that they have in addition?
There are several other vacancies, but yes, they have no quorum, at least without another member right now. And the planning board is required to have at least one on there.
Okay, so they have 5 vacancies?
Looks like, is that right?
5 total vacancies. So where do the other vacancies get filled from, or how?
Just citizens, just like us.
People that are interested? So they're not having much better luck than we are with.
How does the town get the word out about this in general?
That's a struggle for every town, honestly. We can post it on the website, we can post it on social media, we can post it on Merrimack TV. It's a matter of getting the interested volunteers to be able to step up with that time commitment.
It's unfortunate.
I think it usually is on the front page of the town's website for volunteer, and then you can go to look at what openings are there. But honestly, it seems like the seats get filled when somebody gets invited or asked or tapped on the shoulder or arm twisted maybe by Lynn or something, but, I think, the frequency where somebody's just like, hey, I got some spare time, let me go see what I could volunteer for, doesn't happen that much, although that is how I got here. It was a,
They met yesterday at 7 PM. Okay. Well, they can't.
I mean, yeah, it would not be a meeting without a quorum. Okay. Do we want to draw straws? Do we want to split the period of time? Do we want to commit to doing it for a period until we recruit another member of the planning board and tell that new member, that's your job? You
How long
come on
is
the
it?
board.
How long are you committed to?
I think with any term, it's well, actually, no, because it's a board appointment, I'd say 1 year.
It's a 1-year appointment?
Yeah, so when it comes up for the new appointments the following year, the board can reassign it, similar to how the council puts their members on for 1 year.
And do they ever have long meetings? Like, they should-
I honestly do not know. I'm not aware of any.
So did they what do they weigh in on and look at? And-
It says some committees may have heritage commissions that are only advisory, but others want their commissions to make much more active role and to assume the responsibilities of a historic district commission. And all of these are local decisions authorized by the state enabling legislation. So there's a menu of things they can do, and it's up to the local commission to decide what they want to get involved in, I guess.
I believe
But-
ours is set up as an advisory committee, not as a more traditional one like a historic district. Because we don't have the historic district or anything like that zoning in this
Oh,
town.
good, I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Do you know what
Yeah.
it was?
Yeah, we don't have that.
I mean, there, in addition to historic districts, there's like historic properties and that sort of thing that are involved with the concepts around a heritage commission, and the building that the common man is in is a historic building.
Right. There are several buildings around town that have a sign on their front of the house with a year on it. I think Heritage Commission was involved in that project in the past. It was like a voluntary project. They'd say, hey, your house was built in 1850.
Yep.
Do you want a sign or whatever? And they arrange something like that.
Yes, I had one of those houses, and that's, but that commission sort of disappeared, didn't it? Yes, yeah. And we also have a
Was it
town
different?
historic commission, a historical society, I'm sorry. They're getting very active in promoting historical things in the town. John Listowka is head of that.
What's it called?
The Merrimack
Historical
Historical Society. They meet monthly, but they don't have a member of the planning board.
Or fill any of those other vacancies so they got a
Yeah.
quorum and then they won't pester us for an appointment. Sure can't rely on that and don't want to put it on the historical society to fill that gap. All right,
Does it have to be one person the entire year?
it doesn't, I don't think. I mean, we could split.
I mean, yeah, you
I'm
could
trying to- I'm
name
trying to
somebody
find
for
a
like,
solution.
yeah, you could name somebody for 3 months and then decide I'm going to resign and name somebody else. I mean, there's no reason you can't do that.
I mean, some
It's a little
continuity
interesting,
for their
but-
work, because if you go to 3 meetings, you're not even gonna know what the heck's going on by the time you're off to the next guy. But,
I'm just trying to make it attractive.
no, I get it, what if we were sort of just make it a rotating role for the board, and when your time is up, you're on it, and draw straws, and then you're up next.
I mean, honestly, I think we should just concentrate on getting people on our board now, and then after that, we can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sympathetic to the idea that that board can't form a quorum right now, and the easiest avenue to getting somebody on there is to look to us to fill the one that we're supposed to fill, because those other ones, they don't even have a name to put forward, although I guess whoever appoints them to fill those vacancies could appoint themselves. Is there a town council representative to that board?
I don't think so because Barbara served that role essentially when she was here. So I don't think there's a town council rep specifically.
Tell them we'll
But
match their
that's a good
appointment.
point. I think the reason Barbara resigned was so she could do it from a town council representative perspective and get somebody from the planning board, so there's more chance of a quorum for that board. But when she resigned from the town council, it's a great question. I don't recall ever going back and appointing somebody else from the town council. I have to go ask that question.
Yeah, I'm just not sure the
Maybe
answer
I
to
don't
it.
wanna ask that question.
I mean, I can't force anybody to be on the commission. If nobody wants to step forward and do it, let's continue our discussion until another time. And hopefully recruit some members of the planning board who are interested in potentially doing some of those kinds of things. I think, for me, the constraint is just time. I am
Yeah.
so overcommitted to things that I
That's what
couldn't
with
find
me.
it.
That's what with me
Yeah.
too. Just
Um,
too
what's that?
many things.
Yeah. This day job and kids and all the rest of that stuff in my world. Okay. It is what it is. If we don't have anybody willing to step forward to do it, there's nobody to appoint, and we'll just keep looking or trying, or, does the person that we appoint have to be a member of the board, or is it like the NRPC where we can pick somebody not on our board that's the planning board rep?
It's a planning board representative, so it'd be a member of the board.
Who
When
wrote
is
that
the
dumb rule?
When's their next meeting?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Is it on the website? Ironically, I don't think it tells you when the next meeting is.
Probably December, late December for their
Yeah.
hearing. Okay, let's have a brief discussion about recruiting our own members, and part of the announcement or getting it out to the public is saying it out loud on something that's televised and seeing if people that watch our planning board would be willing to do it. We do have, I think, 2 alternate and 2 full positions that are vacant. Is that right, Robert?
I think we have 2 full and 1, oh goodness, I lost my page here.
Is two full empty?
2 full seats are empty currently, and there is 1 alternate seat empty is what it says.
Who's the other alternate
Who's
besides
the
Nelson?
other
Yeah, because Lynn is still, despite her way of working off, she's still on, so there's 1 alternate seat empty.
So Lynn's listed as an alternate or a
Yes.
full?
She's an
Yeah,
alternate.
she's swapped off with John.
Oh, okay. That's why I was confused about that. So 2 full member positions, 1 alternate position. I highly recommend being involved in the planning board. You know about stuff when anybody asks what's going on in that place, you sort of get to know what's going on in town.
You know-
Volunteer, set a good example for your kids. Be engaged in the community. Lots of good reasons for why I do it, but it's a choice that I made 15 years ago, and here I am still.
One of the things I think may help, and I don't know this to be a fact, but before I ran for town council, I mean, I looked at the Merrimack website. I looked at that there was openings to the planning board, zoning board. I didn't know if I was qualified to serve on one of those boards. I was a little hesitant to apply because I didn't know if I was qualified. And so I think if we were able to post something that you don't need planning board experience, you need a
Don't.
willingness to come here and learn about the planning board, that, there's enough training and enough experience on the board that somebody would teach you what you need to know. I think if we could post that, some people out there may be reluctant to apply because they don't have the experience. That may encourage them.
That's a good idea. I think there's something else that you kind of hinted at that I think is important as well. We occasionally do see people who make their entrance into town civic service trying to run for town council as their first move. It helps to have done a few other things. So people can know you a little bit and see what you kind of decisions and how you think and how you approach problems. And then when you're up for election, you can have a resume. And so for those folks that are either interested or have in the past attempted to run for town council and not succeeded, get engaged on some of this other stuff. Zoning board, planning board, school board, any board. School board's relatively high seat as well.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be your first crack either.
No.
Yeah. But
Although it
you're
is.
absolutely right. It's it's good for both parties as well, because you're committing to a 3-year term if you run, you could come and get some experience and decide this may be not the gig for you and you don't want to do it for 3 years. And so it's a good place to try out volunteering for the town, your civic duties and all of that without committing to that full 3 years first. So I agree, it's probably a much better plan than what I came up with.
Have you ever had any student representatives?
We don't have a specific role for a student, like a designated role for a student, but we don't have an age limit if there's a student that was interested in doing
Yeah,
it.
just have to be a registered voter of the town, so there's your age limit.
18.
Yeah.
Okay. I think being engaged in the community and having a general sense of who's on town council, or who's been on town council, or who's the moderator, who's on the school board, that comes from being engaged yourself. I wouldn't know town councilors personally if I wasn't a planning board member. I just wouldn't have any contact with them.
I will say one more, there is Jamie's term that she has left unexpired, expires in 25. So you have less than a year on that. That's a good trial, like 9 months, 8 months. It's a great trial
So
run
you
to see
fill
what
her
you want to
seat.
do. Exactly.
And see
Fill
if they
that
like it.
seat instead of, the other 2 seats are 27.
It's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, no, that's true. Nelson, I know that you've always been willing to go back from being a alternate to being a full member, and I certainly support that if you're interested in doing it, but you get appointed to vote anyway, so.
Yeah, I usually do. I stepped out of the full-time to make room for someone, and I would gradually ease out.
No, I get it, because I'm the someone in that seat.
Yeah.
Made room for me.
Right.
Plus it freed up time for the Heritage
No,
Commission.
I was on the board after you were chair. I
Yeah.
was still on the board.
That's right.
And, I've always enjoyed this work, but had some medical problems this year that's kept me shuttered for a while, but I'm gradually easing my way back into it.
Good, I'm glad you're recovering.
If,
Whatever you want to do is, I support, but just so you know.
if you want to appoint me to the 3-month or 9-month,
For a test drive?
yeah,
I thought you already had a test drive.
I'll take it if that will help anybody's quorum
Considerations, yes.
numbers.
Town council's decision to make that appointment, but as far as me, I'll appoint you every single meeting to vote, because we'll
Requires
need
joining
you.
the Heritage Commission, though.
Yeah, you gotta join the Heritage Commission. Take on another role.
It's a condition.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's put the word out.
Yeah.
Spread the word a little bit and see.
So how do we,
How do we do
Put the
that?
word out.
Yeah, you can do it through the media, I know it pops up on the TV if you watch local TV.
I think we can also do it on the town's website, and the town now has a social media account, I believe, and
Oh, do we?
probably put it out there.
yeah, I think community development itself has a social media presence,
Yes.
or at least it used to.
Yeah, we don't really have that now, but we do have, it's listed on at least our website. I don't know if it's on the front page or not, but I know we've also put in an announcement for council meetings, whoever's at least watching those has, I think, heard it at least the past 1 or 2 meetings. Certainly, I could talk to Nick about getting it on Channel 22 or all the other channels, wherever he runs stuff like that. We can get it, add stuff posted around the building.
If we can get it on social media and send a link out to the members, then we can share it on our social media or comment on it, so the people we're connected to, they see that, and that may.
Oh.
Turn your microphone on.
Andy.
Sorry about that, Grace. Yeah, if we post it on social media and then send a link out to the members here, then we can share it with the community, and that may broaden access
That would
to
help
it.
as well. One other element to the message, I'm not actually tuned into the exact timing, but we're on the doorstep of attacking the master plan again. And
Yeah.
the planning board members are the ones that get to help shape what the master plan will have in it. That usually is when people are either happy or upset about a project, the thing that they're on about has roots in the master plan with, what should be built in this district, and how far apart should things be, and how tall should they be, and, what do you set
many
aside for
apartments?
conservation? And so you get a real chance to shape the complexion of the town for the next 10 years. Regulations are launched off of that, and I don't necessarily focus on the fact that you're recruiting somebody by saying there's some extra work to do, but it is a really important job that you could really make a difference, not just come to some meetings and, all in favor say aye when we're going to continue something for a week. You get some real meaningful decisions and engagement.
Good point.
We can make an impact.
Yeah, okay, I think we're worn that topic out. Any other items of discussion? Okay, then we are up to, what, is there a set of minutes to approve tonight?
Minutes, yeah.
We have got the minutes of October 15th, 2024.
The marathon meeting.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a lot of pages here, line
Wow.
848.
The second
18
longest meeting?
pages of minutes.
Second longest, I think, by just a few minutes, right? Just a few minutes, yep.
I actually like the fact that they continued the line numbering consistently all the way through all the pages, rather than having a page and line.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's the will of the board with respect to the monster minutes?
I found one. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
I read them all the way through. But on page 7 of 18.
Just what line number? I just need a line number.
Well, I'll give you that in a second here. The line number is 327. And there's an interesting sentence there that I just couldn't pass over. It says, Ben Niles asked what % of a project like this development should be qualified as adorable housing.
It is pretty adorable. No, I think the neighbors don't think it's adorable at all.
And they just, I stopped there.
He really is. I'm always impressed, Nelson.
So I would suggest, there are others in there, but there's no point in going through them. They're clear what the intent was, and I think here the intent was affordable as opposed to adorable.
It can be both. Okay, so let's fix
It could be
adorable
both.
to affordable. And Nelson, I assume that was also a motion to adopt the minutes with that change?
With that one change.
Is
yeah.
there a second for Nelson's motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 6-0-0. Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved. Oh,
I'll second Nelson.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 6-0-0. Thank you all, and don't forget to turn the microphones off, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. I may miss that meeting, so you may have to chair that one.